Did you watch the video of grandmas who smoke weed for the first time?
I did, but I watched it about 5 a.m.
Do you want to watch it again?
Yeah, I'll watch it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Can you put it on the big screen?
Sure, I can, bud.
Those aren't very good. What's the premise of this?
Okay, the premise of this. Grandmas smoke weed for the first time. I'm literally just going to read the description. Then we gave them snacks and had them play Cards Against Humanity.
No.
And it says in brackets, update, that was a joke. But I know that it isn't a joke because I've watched the video and they do that. But whatever, let's just watch it.
Some weed.
Yeah, go down quite well.
Jenny. We're gonna let y'all know how these verbal.
And you've never smoked marijuana before?
No, I've never smoked marijuana.
Is there a reason why you haven't?
I was too busy raising children.
I was a suburban housewife,
Because they're from a
and we
different
had our
culture.
cigarettes and our cocktails,
That's the
and
reason.
we were happy.
No,
Yeah,
I've
that's
never
cigarettes
smoked
and
marijuana before.
It's happening. Let's bring it out there. Let them just handle it.
Oh, I have nerves. All of a sudden I have butterflies.
Yikes.
They're bonging.
This is like the worst scenario to try marijuana for the first time.
Taking
ever.
rips from a bong on camera.
Yeah, when you're feeling really nervous and stuff.
So Jason inhale from the top.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
it's gonna drag smoke into here.
There we go. Stand by one.
You can't even
So
light
yeah,
the
you
light.
can gently you can stop lighting it. You can let go of the lighter.
Now take a breath. Oh, maybe not.
Smooth.
So good. They're gonna have a great night.
Yeah.
She's a smoker. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
I need more.
Oh, you need more.
I need more.
The one in the middle seems like she just
Keep your
doesn't
whole
really want
face
to do
over
this.
that. Yes, there.
The one on the left, I think, actually has smoked loads of weed before.
You meant it.
She's
The one on
showing
the
them how to do
right,
it.
she's got a pre-buzz from her Prozac.
Yeah. And a glass of prosecco. Because it's
yeah.
lunch, and you can't have lunch without a prosecco.
Yeah. I drink along to loose women. Whatever the American version of the View.
I
Whatever.
tried to smoke along with Doug Stanhope on jail.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't do it.
The bong and not the cigarette, the joint, whatever it's
I won't say the lingo.
Okay. Yeah, I can feel some tingle in my
They're drinking water, they're going to guzzle
I feel
water
like
like
I'm
nobody's
fine.
business.
Yeah.
10 minutes later it says. I played Jenga.
I've played this before.
Oh, I didn't know you could use all your hands.
Oh, you can?
Inhale through the straw.
Oh, they.
Well, I won't tell you what was going through my mind.
It looks like a dildo, so she's like, oh, it looks like a dildo. The other two are pretending they don't know.
I
That's
thought
what
it
she
was a
meant.
dildo, but I've never seen anything on the end of it like this. So it's nothing.
Yeah, feels like nothing.
Oh, this could be dangerously fun.
No,
Vaporizing
I
is the
was
best.
watching the light there.
Oh, for
I've never
goodness
tried
sake.
that.
Bring me
Especially
go,
people
bring
that
me
aren't
go.
smoking.
Alright.
Because there's nothing you barely breathe anything
Get on.
out.
That straw thing, like, you want to swallow. Jesus, sweet mother.
She got actual smoke. Okay, in the new Disney Channel movie,
Playing Cards Against Humanity.
Hannah Montana struggles with what for the first time? Christopher Walken or a bleached asshole?
Like this.
That game looks really
The
fun.
bleached
You don't play
asshole.
cards yet, you like?
Have you?
Yeah, I played it a couple of times. It is funny. Sometimes but someday if you don't play it right, they just don't make sense.
Oh, right.
You don't have enough.
I could go iron now for days. I love to iron.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
You're kind of weird.
You're kind of weird.
Oh, coming to Broadway this season, Blank the Musical. Okay, so it'd be the South or Queefing?
What do you think?
What's Queefing?
Queffering?
Queffing?
Queffing?
Queffing? Anybody know what queffing is?
Queefing. Yeah, anybody know what that really is?
It's a very modern word.
Is it, are there other is there more terminology that we'd probably
We're
know?
all friends now, so I'm just
Oh, okay.
Fooling around a lot.
Vaginal farting.
Aha.
that's what's
Oh, then let's do that one. Coming to Broadway this season, Pussy Farts, the musical. When I do it, I really feel like the muscles here in my neck seem not as tight,
Yeah, it's brilliant.
and I see a lot of benefits for it. But, yeah.
I totally lost track of what you were talking about.
And then sometimes, but when we're up here, we just get so like, what? What were you saying?
I'm feeling like I really don't care if I understand even.
You're so cute.
And so a little bit of tea, I think, kicked it up a notch.
You sure that was tea?
Okay, so go ahead and tell us
How I feel.
tell a story, and we'll.
She's fast as fuck.
I don't think I
doesn't know
think
what's
I really
going on.
inhaled a lot,
Oh, you
but I do not feel as high as they look to me. I don't feel to me as high as they look to me.
Oh, brother. Oh, God, that's right. That was
She's got more of that mind high going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do it again if I can get this bag of chips open.
That's fantastic.
No grandmas were harmed in the making of this video.
That's great.
Yeah. It's weird.
Watching people get high is very strange. When you see people on drugs when you're not on anything at all, you just watch them, you're sort of losing it a little bit.
Yeah. Because you're really only seeing, like, it's like looking at a black and white picture instead of actually being there. You're losing out on the colour and the third dimension. You're losing out on so much of it that you're not really. It's like you're seeing a ripple, but you're not seeing the shape of the fishes underneath the water.
Well, that's not very.
Well,
very
yeah.
apt.
Is it? Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't got any weed though, because
I
it's
know,
illegal
yeah.
in this country. So
I feel like
I don't use it.
I always feel like on the one hand, I'd really like to smoke weed more because at the minute I smoke weed like every so often, not very often, like
Intermittently.
yeah, once every few months maybe. If I smoked weed a lot, I feel like one of two things would happen. One, it'd be like a creative renaissance.
Yeah.
I'd just be putting out loads of creative shit.
Yeah.
Two, I'd just stagnate and just play games and watch
Yeah.
TV, and suddenly I'd be 48.
But that's
I'd be like, what happened there? I just
that's the
got
thing.
high.
Like, I try and balance both of those things.
Yeah.
Like being really on it, creatively buzzing about, and having and then just like really just soaking into it and just watching something shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'll often save stuff up,
Mm.
like TV or music or whatever. And I'll
Especially for being high.
yeah.
That's a good idea to do that.
Especially like something quite intense or reality TV, because with reality TV I can just see right through it. I can
Yeah.
just cut through all the bullshit with it.
Yeah.
Like a knife through hot butter. No, hot knife through butter.
Yeah.
And so you just like, and that's it's hilarious.
I feel like those ladies, their expectation might have been coloured by the perception of weed, especially their generation. They would have had
Yeah.
so many PSAs telling them how weed makes you mindless and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They
Rape
don't-
white women.
Yeah, it makes you rape white women. They probably went out after this video and raped a white
A
woman.
white
each.
woman. These raped each other. No, that's terrible. It's not
But
fun.
like the one on the right, who was like the blonde woman, she was like, "Oh, I don't feel like I'm as high as these two." I think what was happening with her is that she was expecting weed to just be a thing that makes you feel relaxed,
Yeah.
whereas actually it can be really mentally stimulating.
Engaging. Yeah.
And if you're not ready for that, it can fuck you up.
Really knock you for six.
Yeah,
It's great though.
it is
I'm
great.
a big proponent of,
Yeah.
of it, but most people are.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
At this point, there's no point in making the whole.
I don't meet
Oh,
many people.
legalise it,
I don't
baby.
meet many people that go, oh, I don't smoke weed, or I don't believe it should
Yeah.
be at least more readily available.
By the time we're like in our 30s, 40s,
Yeah.
then the people who are in their 30s and 40s in power will be our generation, and there's no way we won't just be
Not
legal
us,
everywhere.
but
No, we won't be.
Yeah.
We'll be advisors and consultants.
yeah.
But weed is definitely going to be completely legal at some
Oh, I
point in
hope
the
so.
future.
How can you just buy it from the off license?
Yeah, that'd
Just
be
pop
great.
down the offie.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to think that this is their first exposure to this drug, because I don't want to. I'm having to tread on eggshells here because I don't want to just launch into that spiel of like,
Weed's
oh, it's a plant and it's the best medicine
Yeah.
on earth and all that, because
Yeah.
that's become really circle jerky, and also the best medicine is clearly penicillin, not weed. Antibiotics better than weed.
But it's weird how, for our generation, it's so readily available. Probably 80% of people, if not more, have probably tried it at some point.
Yeah.
Probably a good half have it reasonably regularly.
Yeah.
Well, depends what your concept of regular is, I suppose. But for generation before or like grandparents' generation, it's just not the case.
Yeah, they like.
It's almost like a
literally never tried
mystical
it.
thing that you know
Yeah.
nothing about.
Yeah.
Or even if you know something about it, you've never had it. Like
Yeah.
sort of ayahuasca is now.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, I'm
yeah,
like, that
that's a
sounds
good
interesting,
comparison,
but I
yeah.
don't.
Or DMT.
I don't know where I'm going to get it from or who. Oh, I'm not ready for it. I don't want it. You know.
I feel like as well our parents' generation, like both my parents smoked weed at least a bit when they were like in their 20s. Like my dad used to smoke weed every day in his 20s
Yeah.
or in his early 20s, and then he doesn't anymore. As far as I know, maybe he does occasionally, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But he doesn't anymore, like as a part of his lifestyle at least. And I feel like that is part of the paradigm shift that's happening. Our generation, we don't necessarily see weed as like a party drug.
Yeah.
Whereas that generation sort of did. It was like, oh, it's something that you do when you're in your 20s. You go out, you have a drink, you have a few spliffs, and you have a little bit of a party, and then you go home and you do your work. Whereas for us, we're so
part of day-to-day life.
I mean, not necessarily. Not for me,
Well,
it isn't. And
sometimes it can be. That's the dangerous aspect of it.
yeah,
And that's the dangerous aspect I had last year of living in a big communal
yeah, I
building
bet.
with people of a similar age, often of a similar mindset. Some a completely different mindset, but there's a lot of sort of I suppose we could. Yeah.
Might as well smoke some weed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I should talk about criminal activity on a but somebody I knew,
Yeah.
let's say, got loads,
Mm-hmm.
and
I was writing this down to send to the police. That's okay.
and it went from we'll do it every now and again
Yeah.
to okay, we'll have one a night while we all sort of communally hang out to we'll have one when we get up before we go to our lecture, we'll have one before dinner because it'll make dinner nicer obviously,
Yeah.
and then we'll get back and then we'll smoke until everybody goes to bed.
How long were you doing that for?
About a month.
Like every day, a few times a day.
Yeah. Like 3 or 4 a day for a month or two.
How does that reality compare to the reality of just complete sobriety?
It's much more fun. It's much more fun. I feel the connections you make with people are far greater.
Yeah, I agree with that.
People on that, journey's a bit of a shitty thing, but people who are there with you, they might not do exactly the same amount or whatever, but they're there and you chat and the conversations you have and the things you do at the time feel very meaningful and you feel like you have very good connections from them. But I feel like you could potentially ostracise yourself from people who aren't on that journey.
Yeah,
That makes
yeah.
sense. So
yeah.
there's about 3, 4, 5. How many people were doing it last year? There was an equal number that weren't.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe at some times we ostracise ourselves from them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's
That definitely can happen though, and does happen.
But I feel the same could be said if we all just gathered in a room and drank vodka all night.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more of a
It could be,
social
but
thing.
that's more socially acceptable because it's more.
Legal.
Yeah, and it's also a part of the social fabric. Like, it'd be reasonable for someone to say, oh yeah, my mum always has a glass of wine every night or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, my mum doesn't drink, but that's almost abnormal.
Yeah.
Most people's
people do.
parents and parents' generation drink a lot. So, the difference is, that's the difference. Like, if you were getting drunk every night and half of the group wasn't, I don't feel like there would be as much potential to be ostracised there. Maybe there would, I don't know.
Also, when you're drunk, everyone gives you a pass, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone just goes, oh, well, he's drunk.
You're sort of not yourself necessarily, or you're
Whereas when you're high,
expected to be
you're
yourself.
chilled. It's a different kind of experience.
Sorry, I'm just having a indigestion tablet. You can have one if you want.
Oh, I'm alright with it. My indigestion's great.
That's something weed does to me actually. It always makes me need to shit.
Yeah.
Whenever I always know when I'm high because I instantly need to shit.
Shit.
There's something to my bowels.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point I was making earlier, to come back to it, is that I think each generation has a sort of different perception of weed, and the perception keeps changing. for our parents' generation, we're like in our early 20s, our parents' generation mid 40s.
Yeah.
For that generation, weed was more likely to be seen as like a party drug, like akin to something like alcohol or ecstasy or whatever. Whereas for our generation, it can be that, but we're also more aware of the possibility of it being used as a creative tool or more of a lifestyle. Some people use it as a lifestyle, and that's not achieved complete social acceptance yet, but I think one day it will.
Yeah, well, if you think, like you were saying earlier, there's going to come a point where we run this ship.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, 80% of people have tried it. Probably 40-50% of people do it quite regularly.
Yeah.
It's probably going to become just as acceptable to go home after work and have a spliff.
Yeah.
A doob, as it is to go and have a glass of wine or a couple of beers at the pub. And that's going to be great.
Yeah, I think that will be a good thing.
It makes me feel better than alcohol makes me feel.
You also need to... I think the pendulum is sweet. Whenever there's a big social issue, like we'll probably talk about that whole Shirtgate thing later on in the episode, and that's the feminism thing is another example of the pendulum swinging really far in the other direction, because there's the patriarchy and misogyny and all of that. So in order to solve that problem, people are swinging the pendulum really far in the other direction in the hopes that it will settle. So they're going really far in the direction of yes, all women and Gamergate and all of that shit, all of the strong feminist stuff. And I think the weed situation is another example of that. While this is going on, there's not a lot of nuance in the argument, and so people who are proponents of weed are very likely to just stick their fingers in their ears and go, weed is a miracle drug, it's the best, it's perfect for everyone. Whereas in reality, like cars, for example, are great, but you wouldn't just let people drive a car without knowing what they were doing. First of all, you teach them about cars, you tell them what to expect, probably teach them how to do it. Weed is a similar thing. Like, it can cause anxiety, it can cause psychological symptoms even after you've sobered up. There are a lot of things that need to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with that.
And I think that probably will happen at some point, but that's never going to happen when it's all illegal and tabooed. So certainly I wouldn't recommend making it more illegal. I would recommend completely legalising it because it's not harmful.
Yeah, legalise.
420, blazer. Oh, you did the hand signal.
I did the hand signal.
I've got that, 420.
Yeah, that stands for 4:20 p.m.
Another point that I was going to make.
About drugs.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yes.
I haven't got it.
Oh. Well, another point that I was going to vaguely bring up.
Yeah.
Anyway, is that it's interesting to me how these grandmas are so old. We should call them grandmas now because the title call them these ladies, these women, these individuals. They're so old and they've never tried weed before. Whereas you go to some cultures, maybe not anymore, but at least you travel back in time and go to some cultures, and weed is like used as a spiritual tool for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like an entheogen or whatever it's called, a drug that lets you contact God. And it's the same things like ayahuasca, DMT, all of these things.
Yeah.
Like ayahuasca, for people who aren't familiar with it, is a drug that Amazonian tribes use to contact whatever their conception of the ultimate infinite reality is. I don't know anything about their mythology, but they use it as an entheogen, as a drug to contact that, or to feel that, or to get in touch with their spiritual side in some way. And people have used weed like that for a long time. And I know that when I smoke weed, it puts me in touch with something like that. I don't have
I know what you mean.
I don't have a basis. I don't believe in God. I'm not religious, so I don't have like a basis to put it on. But it's certainly, I feel like, not for everybody, but for me at least, and for a lot of people, it gives you this immediate sense of awareness of, the infinite and your connection to it and your place in the universe and all of that. And it's important to have that in some sense, and we can bring that. Not for everyone, but for some people.
Yeah, for some people.
And it's interesting that generation of people, the generation that those, quote, grandmas are from, they're more religious than us, but I think they're less spiritual than us.
Yeah.
I think they're far less spiritual than us.
They're very cut and dry religious, very paint charts.
Yeah, they're very much like, we have the story. It's almost as if you've got like an old person telling this story to a kid, and it really makes sense to the old person, but then eventually he dies and he can't explain it anymore, and the kid didn't really understand it,
Didn't
so the
pick
kid
it
just
up.
keeps telling the story and doesn't really get it.
Yeah.
And that's what religion has become at this point. And
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like
interesting. Yeah.
part of this whole genesis of our new spiritual identity as a culture, whatever it happens to become, part of it is, I feel like that's what's happening now, whether it is or it isn't, maybe it isn't, but part of that is like the fact that we're doing more psychedelic drugs. Weed is one of them. And
Probably
yeah.
the best one.
Yeah. I don't know, that's the only one I've done.
Yes, the best.
But it's mild, it's fairly mild, so it's good. It doesn't cause hallucinations or anything.
It's nice. The mildness of it is delightful.
Yeah. It's not always mild though. Sometimes for me, if I get really high, my mind becomes really overstimulated, and I'm thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, and everything is abundant with meaning as well.
Yeah.
Everything becomes super meaningful. Like I'll be watching a TV series, and the plot of the episode will just mean everything, and it's not like in a symbolic sense. I'll be like, this is my life. This they're describing my life in symbols, and the symbols of Jim Jeffrey and that wheelchair guy. Oh my god!
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
I get that a lot when I combine it with modafinil.
Yeah,
That's like a cognitive enhancement drug.
Yeah, aka Provigil.
And so you're already focused as shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you add the weed that gives you a bit of depth.
Yeah.
And you suddenly focus with depth, and you like.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. It's like having a magnifying glass with the little specimen thing that you put things on.
Yeah.
Or something.
I know what you mean. Yeah. No, it's true. It's great.
Yeah. I remember that time when we smoked weed and took modafinil and we just sat in your garden.
Just chatting for
for
it was like
hours.
4 a.m.
Yeah.
It was quite cold.
It was quite cold and it was dark, but it was just great.
See the stars.
Yeah. That's something that there's no place for that anymore in society because we've lost religion. So there's no communal gathering. There's no gathering which the sole purpose is community. You have to sort of set that up yourself now.
Yeah, that's true. There's nowhere everybody is.
It's no longer a part of the institution of the culture. There's no like.
Or as it was for such a huge amount of time.
Yeah, I mean it always has been in every culture. There's always been
something.
I feel like at this point we're such a big culture. We're becoming this global culture that like I suppose we do still have it in things like Reddit and YouTube comments, but that's not really the same thing.
Yeah, it's not.
It's principally similar,
but it's not the same.
Yeah.
In actuality.
We should have like smoking circles. We should have drum circles.
Drum circles.
No, what we should do? We should organise an event, call it something like Burning Man or something like that. Just get there like once a year. We'll have Sherpas to show the rich people around.
Fantastic. Panpipes.
Yeah. Well, I think the generation like immediately before us, a few generations before us, and even a lot of people in this generation are like aware of this vague spiritual awakening that might be happening, might not be happening, and are very into the airs and graces of it all and pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
And like, well, this bead stands for peace, and this set of beads I actually got from my Sherpa in the Himalayas. His name was and he taught me a lot about the nature of the universe. They're very simple folks, so they don't really understand science. But you know, I pretend to understand. It's like you're just looking like you're being spiritual without really
having any spiritual nature.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have any spiritual nature though. I masturbate all day, so better.
Yeah, more,
it's a lot better.
Fun.
It's great.
And you get to come all the time.
Yeah.